we don't have time to just take a moment to post one thing and then move on with your life. And I don't think you should stay quiet just because it doesn't affect you.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for this edition of the One Young World Together Apart series. My name is Imafidon, and I'm a One Young World ambassador from the UK. Today, we are joined by none other than Formula One world champion, Lewis Hamilton, who needs no introduction at all. So despite being one of the greatest drivers in history, he has been the subject of racist abuse throughout his life and career. So Lewis has a critical voice in the wake of the protests, and we're here today to dive deeper into that. So I just want to thank you, Lewis, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Kenny. How you doing?
Really good, thank you, really good. So I'm just going to ask you a few questions, and we'll just flow from there. So the first question is, so you broke down barriers as a junior car racer en route to the top of Formula One, but you remain the sport's only black driver. So what do you believe can be done to guarantee diversity in industries across the board?
I think we've got to really continue to push on creating a dialogue with organizations. I do like the word guarantee because it suggests accountability, and we all need to be held accountable. I think educating ourselves, you see a lot of companies over the years who talk about diversity and inclusion, but you look at their staff and it doesn't reflect what they're speaking about. So it's really calling people out, it's talking about it, looking at ways that you can affect your own industry. I'm constantly talking to my team. There's, just for example, just within my industry, there's very, very little diversity, and it's something I've been speaking about nonstop. And I think at the end of the day, you just can't stop talking about it. And we're in a position, I'm very, very fortunate. I've got it. I'm so grateful for the platform that I have. So I'm really trying to utilize it to the best of my ability to help spread the word, to help educate people. And by no means am I perfect. I'm trying to also make sure that I'm educating myself. I'm reading up more. Speaking to people in communities, I'm speaking to members of government, trying to understand what I can do to help local communities around, particularly around the UK, obviously, from where I'm from.
Thank you. And so even like one of the things you mentioned is like your position. So like given your influence, like how are you using that to promote change? And what is something that we can all do in our spheres of influence to promote change as well?
It's a few things. I mean, as I said, I think it's really about educating yourself. I think there are people that, what's been difficult during this time is you see people posting or taking a moment out to post about the Black Lives Matter, but they're not really acting on it. And some people jump on the bandwagon, but in that, it's just encouraging people. I'm trying to encourage my friends. I'm trying to encourage family members not to be silent, to, as I said, to educate themselves, read up. There's been a long line of these things, this happening for such a long time. And whilst it kind of, this thing started, the catalyst of this was in the States, by no means is it not around all of Europe, obviously in a different way, but it's all across Europe, all across the world. So if you can, I think, as I said, speak up for people of color like us. We learned through personal experiences. So sharing those experiences so people understand. And me personally in Formula One, being the only person of color there and racing all the way to Formula One, the only family of color was not easy. And luckily I had my dad to be there, who I knew understood what we both understood what we were going through. Thank God I had him to support me through that period of time. But I think it's just being really encouraging to people. And some people also feel like they don't know what to say, but that doesn't mean you should stay silent. And again, that should mean that you should just go and learn for yourself. The information's out there.
And it's very true. And even as you even mentioned, like Black Lives Matter and just where the world is right now, and there's so much like anger and frustration, and also rightly so. But what would you say in terms of how we can ensure that the anger that we've seen that has rippled across the world can be converted into action?
I mean, action needs to be taken at the top level to address like systematic racism that's affecting people of color each and every day. So, you know, we've obviously got this crazy coronavirus pandemic that has shown us that anything that happens can change quickly. I think it's really great to see that we've got people like Sadiq Khan, for example, who obviously will have his own personal experiences, but someone high up in government who is being a great example as a leader. And there are people out there probably that don't feel like their voice means much, but collectively it can be so powerful. And I think that's what you're seeing. I'm so proud of everyone that is standing together of all different race and ethnic backgrounds on these marches. Because it's just showing such solidarity. I think this is getting traction like never before. And we don't have time to take a break. We've got to stay on top of it, push this message and really push for change. So believe me, that's my sole focus right now. Whilst I have a race season coming up, getting into the detail, trying to help change the systemic oppression, you might say, that we've had for so long, changed it from within these organizations.
And even talking about systemic oppression, so one of the big things that's going on in the news right now is all to do with the statues in particular. And I know that you've said in terms of governments around the world should implement the peaceful removal of racist symbols, for example, like Edward Colson's statue in Bristol. So can you just speak a bit more into like your view around that?
I felt more and more angry that the history that I learned was not of where my family's from. A lot of things were missing within the lessons of history you generally learn about white history. You don't learn too much about Black history and Black culture, and you don't necessarily, you don't learn that there were the war was multicultural. So many people helped us win that war. It's so saddening to think that there are those statues out there, and I felt like it was a victory because I'd read that they've been trying to take that statue down for time and nothing gets done. And it's only taken that perhaps this whole experience that people may start to act, and people are starting to act in removing these statues, but it shouldn't take those things. And whilst it is a part of history, it's not something that we should be celebrating. These people who have, if you look at what's happening, the stuff that I've been reading of what's happened in Belgium, it's mind-blowing. And they've got statues of Leopold everywhere and celebrating him. So I saw a really great picture from Banksy, and he's like, we should put the statue up, but do then statues of people pulling it down, because that was quite an incredible moment. But we've got to also remember the history of the people that helped build the country, and the slaves that lost their lives and are thrown into the ocean. So yeah, I think this whole story of history needs to change, and how we educate the youths needs to change moving forwards, in my opinion.
No, thank you. And I guess one question a lot of people probably want to know is that, given that you've gone to like the pinnacle in terms of your career and you're very much world class and you're going to have all these accolades and you're still young, so you still got way more time to beat so many other records if you haven't beaten them already. So even at your level, do you feel like, would you still say you still experience discrimination?
Absolutely. In the States, it's very, very, I think Americans are generally very vocal about it, and it's very, very in your face. And I think in Europe and in UK, it's quite subtle, and it's a little bit more quiet. It still happens. And it's difficult because it's difficult to call it out because it's not so blatant. It's very quiet. And you see I heard that they're taking down some movies and things, and Hollywood's reacting to certain things in movies that are these subtle little jabs. And you hear that I see that with what happens within my sport in terms of how I'm perceived by fans. Many races I go to and I'm booed, and I haven't done anything to anybody. There's certain ways in which people speak about me or do not speak about me. And so I have to go the extra mile to be as correct, come as correct as I can be, and I just do my talking on the track. That's what my dad always said. You know, when I was in my karting days, the amount of things we had thrown at us and said to us during that time was difficult. My dad was just the most amazing man, because me, I'm a fighter. I just, you know, I fight, and I had to learn how to fight because I got bullied at school, and I had to learn to defend myself. So, but my dad would be like, just do your talking on the track. And so I'd go out and beat people, and then we'd just drive away and we didn't have to say anything. And that's what I still do today, you know. And I think at the core of what I do and how I race, and why I feel like I'm able to do what I do is that, you know, that pain and that struggle is at the core of who I am still today. Of course, I've had success, but that doesn't change the core of who you are. And you know, now even more importantly, you know, I'm going into a season, and I think in life probably all, you know, everyone's struggling with something, no matter where you're from, no matter how much money you have, whatever it may be. Everyone's struggling with something, and everyone's probably trying to find their purpose. And I really feel like I'm growing and coming into where and what I'm supposed to be doing. And whilst in many, many years, I could look back and say I've got multiple championships. What I'd mostly be proud of is if I'm able to help change, make change for within my sport, from grassroots, enable these big organizations that can be kind of stubborn in their ways, where you see 2 or 3% minorities within these organizations, to see that shift and be a part of that shift. That's what I'm working towards.
Thank you. And I guess, so this is my last question, because I know that we're running out of time. So in terms of, we talked a lot about like, just like people coming together and allies, and I guess what's one piece of advice you could give to people in terms of how they can be better allies and be more bold to speak out in regards to just all the stuff that's going on right now? Because I know, like, before you voiced a lot of disappointment in regards to like your colleagues' initial lack of acknowledgement when it came to police brutality and racism. So what advice you have for like allies and people who want to speak out about this stuff?
Well, firstly, when I posted that, I left it open to interpretation. So some people saw it as I targeted other drivers. It was actually targeted at a wide range of people in my industry, but also in other industries. You know, I know a lot of top celebrities, athletes, actors who have big platforms and have said nothing. And I'm seeing them just stay silent, continue to post as if it's normal. And that upsets me. And so that was really who I was calling out. And it was interesting then to see certain people react. And I do understand it's not an easy subject for certain people, and some people just don't know what to say, and they don't want to get it wrong, you know, because some people have come out in support, and then they get ridiculed because they've said it the wrong way. So I do understand that. And so what I hope is that it's given people the encouragement to come out and say things. And I think that's what I've seen, but it's still not enough. We don't have time to just take a moment to post one thing and then move on with your life. And I don't think you should stay quiet just because it doesn't affect you. And, you know, when I got to Formula One, I had some bad experiences. Like in 2007, you know, in Spain, a group of people turned up. They colored their face, white people colored their face black, put on a gray wig and t-shirt with their name, trying to act out, you know, taking the mick out of my black family. And we've had things thrown at us. And, you know, within my sport, no one said anything. No one stood up for me. And the only person that was there for me really was my dad. And so again, holding people accountable and really, again, encouraging people to use their voices for the voiceless.
Honestly, thank you for answering all those questions and for your time today. And yeah, thank you all for watching this interview with the one and only. And honestly, thank you for your time. This has been very, very interesting. I think it's very important as well for more people to hear your side of the story, because there are people in your position who people don't really see what they face and what their experience is like. So thank you for sharing today.
Thank you so much, Kenny, and keep doing you, man. Keep being great and shining your positive light on people. You know, you're making such a big difference. And I'm so grateful for you for taking the time for having me Keep up the great fight, man.
Yeah, thank you very much.